see what ChatGPT came up with here. So. Thank you to Mike, Giordani, and all the attendees of this event for being here. It's truly incredible to see all parts of my life represented, from Fairfax, way in the back, to Haverford, to New York, and Philly, and Harlem lacrosse, and everything else in between. To say I'm blessed and the luckiest person in the room is the understatement of the evening. Thank you to my sister Marjorie for being here. I love you. And Mom and Dad, even though I know you can't be here, I hope you know you're here in spirit and feel the immense pride I have in being your son. I want to thank my beautiful wife, Niffy, who is I need that. Who is here, and our two beautiful girls, Goldie and Remy. I know how much you all sacrificed to have me pursue this work, and I'm forever grateful to have the best team of all. So a little about me. I get to talk about myself, okay. And what I understand is a life defined by juxtaposition. I grew up in Fairfax, Virginia, the son of history professors. In going with this juxtaposition theme, my dad was the son of Jewish immigrant merchants who had found their way to Memphis, Tennessee, and my mom, the daughter of Kentucky tobacco farmers. I imagine that it was quite the interesting wedding. My parents both certainly preferred books to sports, and neither were lacrosse people, but they met at Hopkins, and from that moment I showed some proclivity to sports. They were pushing me to the stick and ball game they had first seen at Homewood Field decades earlier. No chance, y'all. Come on. I played lots of sports. Ask Coach Murphy or any of my Haverford or Woodson teammates here, and they'll be quick to document my illustrious cross-country career. But lacrosse is where I found myself. As a socially awkward, somewhat peculiar seventh grader, the sport gave me a critical outlet and a place of true learning. At first, I was one of the very worst players, so they stuck the kid who couldn't catch or scoop or do anything well on defense. The problem with defense is I was also maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. A gazelle, sure, but not someone who could provide real resistance or move anyone. It was from this place of helplessness where I learned how to self-critique, how to build, and how to do so in a team context and around others. For a young kid trying to make sense of things, the game became for me how it was originally intended, medicine. Eventually, I found my way to Haverford, or the U, as some have aptly called it. And it's here where I found my best friends that exist to this day and was able to be coached by Mike Murphy, who by my humble estimation is the best coach in college lacrosse, and who I'm now beyond lucky to call a colleague here at Harlem Lacrosse. In many ways, it was pretty difficult to get a 1,000-person Quaker school to become a real player in Division III. Yet the formula was exceedingly simple. It was about consistent applied effort and accountability. Do the right thing the right way was ingrained into our heads and has become the mantra as we've stepped into adulthood. It was about then what it's about now and forever. Never being outworked, we before me, never taking ourselves too seriously, and figuring out how to truly prepare, and that the work and decision-making always happens well before any whistle. The hay was always in the barn. I graduated in 2008, which, as you can imagine, was a perfect time to slide into a normal career. Instead, I found myself again living in juxtaposition. My day job was doing research in the juvenile justice sector, but I also couldn't quite shake this lacrosse habit either. I started coaching and writing for the lacrosse publications. Covering the sport makes it impossible not to be acutely aware of its problematic history. Despite the game's indigenous roots, even the sport's name itself, lacrosse, is a cue to colonialism and the French missionaries on the St. Lawrence seeing the game for the very first time. It's not particularly difficult to draw the through lines from there. The sport's growth following patterns of white flight and an expansion to suburbs and prep schools and the sustained lack of diversity. The most famous lacrosse player during my childhood was unfortunately a slashing midfielder from suburban Detroit known by a singular name, Stifler. Past may be prologue, but it doesn't have to define our future either. I had that view when I started at Harlem Lacrosse in 2013, eager to be part of writing a new narrative and trying to push the game beyond its too often exclusionary past and limited demographics. And no one wants teammates just from Port Washington and Manhasset, right? So when I joined, I was one of two program directors and was based at Frederick Douglass Academy on 148th and 7th Avenue. The role then is what it is now, coaching middle school lacrosse and being in the school building all day, every day, checking in on these students in the classroom and beyond. On my first day, we traveled to play field stint at Randall's Island, where we had to take the subway and then walk 3 city blocks to catch the M35 bus to the field. While I thought my first game would be about talking through special situations or how to substitute using the box, a few minutes in, one of our students had wandered from our sidelines towards the rocks to the East River to check out the boats passing by. It seemed my patented 10-man ride and the matchup zone install would have to wait. Yet, whatever conceptions I may or may not have had quickly dissipated. My time at FDA was a dream job in every way. I was coaching the game I loved in a place I loved with just the best kids. But yet, the experience was again defined by juxtaposition. In many ways, those FDA teams were no different than any team I had ever been a part of. You had good days and you had bad days. Some attackmen, I saw Jossie and Mamadou walk in earlier, maybe shot a bit too much, and there were overzealous defenders who were a bit too liberal taking whacks at practice. But at the core, you had a group of guys who loved to compete, cared deeply about each other and what was at stake, and who refused to take no for an answer and in the very best way. But it was also unlike any other team I'd been on either. Our practice field was a handball court no bigger than a restraining box, where the wrong push, ask Giordani about his mom showing up to practice, could go sideways quickly, or a wrong bounce could send a ball directly into the FDR. As Friday Night Lights author Buzz Bissinger aptly noted when he came to visit, I have seen many lacrosse games and scrimmages during my life, but until I watched a Harlem lacrosse practice, I never saw one held up because the mesh of a player's stick got caught in a dilapidated chain-link fence with weeds poking out of it. It was also just apparently obvious that the resource imbalance extended far beyond lacrosse practice, but to basically every part of our students' lives. I had the gift of FDA being a middle school that was also attached to the high school. So over time, I was able to see middle schoolers turn into high schoolers who would then have to navigate what could seem to be the impossible, figuring out what comes next. Navigating college is difficult for anyone, much less Harlem lacrosse students, which, as you've heard, a large majority are first generation and low income. They need real knowledge about what college is and what it isn't, and also what's going to be the best fit for them and how finances play into this journey. And yes, they mostly all need full scholarships. Then there are the real systematic issues at play. There are only 75 universities and colleges in the country that meet students' full financial need, and they are becoming increasingly difficult to get accepted to. The price of college has become astronomical. A full Pell Grant, which Mike referenced, the tool the federal government came up with to make college affordable, is about $7,400, whereas plenty of colleges are making the news for costing $100,000. Not to mention, there's a real shortage of college counselors in our public schools, with an average ratio of 450 students to one counselor, or even double that in some of our most underserved districts. Yet, whatever barriers existed, and there remain plenty, we have found a way here at Harlem Lacrosse. Our programs have become an undeniable across-the-country movement where 40 people now have that role as program director, and that extends all across the country from East Boston to Compton. Over the next year, you will have seen the strategic push of depth over breadth and supporting our students not just through middle school, but all the way through to high school graduation. Last year and this year's cohorts of 250 total seniors will all graduate to a post-secondary opportunity and will have 100% of their full financial need met. And we'll be attending every type of school, from Cornell to Scripps to Denison to Haverford, the U, to Hampton, to SUNY Oneonta, to Dell State, to Russell Sage, and Compton Community College to postgraduate years and trade programs and apprenticeships and everything else in between. When you consider the broader dynamics at play, I can promise this wasn't preordained, and it certainly wasn't meant to be. But to be perfectly honest, making tonight about me is an uncomfortable affair. This job is about service to others, and Harlem Lacrosse's success and our explosive growth and the fight to set students up for long-term success has been defined by shared community, communal responsibility, and a large number of people coming together to agree that a child's opportunities in lacrosse and an education shouldn't be limited to their zip code or their tax bracket. So instead, tonight is for the entire Harlem Lacrosse staff. You all are my heroes. I know the job is fun, but it is undeniably grueling, and there's nothing more inspiring to me than seeing you come in every day with a practice plan, checking grades, getting in the mix, and trying to get some kids better. It's for my pathing team warriors, Josiah and Christine, leaving no email unanswered, who look for every piece of financial aid under every single couch cushion, and who refuse to be denied. You're my heroes too. And Amy, your mentorship has been invaluable, and this just doesn't happen without you wherever you are. It's for any boarding school admissions counselor who has gone above and beyond and who have answered our nonstop emails and may have stretched when a kid didn't have the perfect transcript or the right scores because they understood that while those indicators tell stories, they don't always tell the complete one. And it's the same thing for any of these college counselors who has understood, often ones who have understood that covering room, board, tuition will never be enough and have found additional funding to get students home during breaks or even found housing on campus when students had nowhere to go. It's for anyone who's written a check, no matter the size, or advocated at their companies to send internship offerings to Harlem Lacrosse students, understanding innately how hard it is for anyone to navigate professional networks while getting our students' resumes on desk and feet indoors. Giordani didn't say this, but he's at HPS. That happens through their internship program. For the students in... For the students and families who have entrusted us to support you on this journey and support you every step of the way, whether through missteps, injuries, championships, or bitter defeats, full scholarships, or national letters of intent, or even having to take that community college detour and scrapping for every financial aid dollar we can find, it's truly been the honor of a lifetime. Thank you. And finally, for everyone here tonight, for understanding that that American contract, that beautiful idea that from elbow crease and applied effort leads to real opportunity, is only as powerful as it is true, and that those opportunities extend to all. Please know I consider all of you being honored alongside me. Still, I want to leave on a final note of what I consider juxtaposition. Because as much success as we've had here and delivered on proof of concept, we need your partnership. Trying to give students a robust experience in lacrosse and elsewhere in their school is expensive, complicated, messy, and the headwinds certainly aren't in our favor. Public school sports remain at risk and are often not seen as a crucial part of many students' learning experience or the public utility that they actually are. The youth sports pay-to-play industrial machine marches on for those students with the resources at home to keep up. Colleges and post-secondary financing and the ability to truly fund low-income first-gen students remains on shaky ground. And while I love each of you, I didn't come here just for a party. While the challenges are real, they are also not insurmountable. The students of Harlem Lacrosse have been proving that every play, every day, and since our inception. With your support, we can make the kinds of long-term outcomes we have seen for so many of our alums possible for many more kids and families than ever before. I may have blinked a few times if you had told me on that handball court that we'd be at the precipice of sending 500 Harlem Lacrosse students to college in a single year back in those days. But that's where we are and exactly what we can accomplish together. Please join us in making this vision a reality by making a gift tonight or when you can, and I promise you it's going to be an unbelievably fulfilling experience. Thank you for being part of our team here and in finding a new way. Thank you.